Welcome to this video. We're going to be making an elephant's silhouette on an African sort of sunset landscape. The materials that you'll need for this project are going to be as many of these colored pencils as you can possibly get. If you have less, it's not the end of the world. I have pretty much the rainbow. Optionally, we have a jar of coconut or baby oil and a cotton swab, but if you don't have that, it's totally fine. You will need a black marker or Sharpie too, but the coconut oil and Q-tip are optional. So I'm going to be working on half a sheet of paper. I'm just folding a paper in half because this is so color heavy. It would take quite a long time if it was a full sheet, although you're welcome to. I'm going to start with yellow in the middle, and I'm just going to draw a line in the middle, and then I'm going to start to shade, and I'm going to go towards the top as I'm shading. So this is also optional, but if you have something round like a drinking glass, or this is the top of a jar, if you put it halfway in the middle, so that half on the bottom and half on the yellow, you can use this as like a stencil for your sun. I know that a lot of students are very nervous with drawing a perfect circle, or in this case a half circle. So if you'd like to, you can do that, and you can either just trace it in orange or however close you can get to an orange color from your color pencil set, or just like color around it towards the left and the right. I like that better than tracing, because tracing will give you this sort of harsh line, and that just gives you the approximate outline of a sun. And then you can just kind of go from there and eyeball it the rest of the way. So right now I'm taking my orange and I'm going really lightly over the existing yellow that's not part of the sun. So like to the left and the right of that semicircle that we just traced. And I'm doing really lightly. I'm not pressing that hard because I want to blend the orange into the yellow, not overtake the yellow. So now that I am done coloring my orange on top of the yellow, I want to talk to you about two really important things that will affect the quality of your drawing. There's only so many things you can control, like the quality of the colored pencils. I'm using Crayola colored pencils, which is like quite literally the worst quality colored pencil you could get, but I'm doing my best with it. So one thing is the way that you color. Notice on the left, I colored back and forth, but I did it really quickly, not purposely scribbly or anything, but just quickly. Whereas on the right, I'm going back and forth really slowly. There's a huge quality difference when you do that. And then the second thing is with regards to blending. So in a perfect world, this would be like literally an hour-and-a-half long video. But of course, nobody has time to watch an hour-and-a-half long video. So I'm coloring a little quicker than I normally would. But the best way to do it is to layer. So right now I'm going to blend blue into violet by layering. And I'm starting out dark, but I'm letting up my pressure. So see how it goes from dark to the light? Now I'm doing the opposite with purple. I'm starting out dark and going upwards, going towards light. And where they meet in the middle, where the two lightest parts meet, that's when they're going to blend together. And that's really going to look a lot nicer than doing just stripes, which I'll show you in a second. So see how you can't really tell where one ends and one begins. Whereas if you don't layer them, if you just use the same pressure, even if you try to blend them, in other words, even if I try to get that purple into that blue, it's just going to look like a stripe. So there's no blending there. So as you're coloring, please make sure that you're starting out dark and going light when you're about to transition to another color. So right now I'm going to take my orange and darken it so that I have an area of dark, but I'm going to get lighter and lighter as I go up towards the top. So I faded out my orange. Now I'm going to go with the red. And you can either start out dark and go light towards the orange, or start out light on the orange and go dark towards the top. It doesn't really matter. So I'm doing the first way. I'm starting out dark on the top. Now I'm going to speed up the video to the point where you can't really see that I'm going back and forth, but otherwise it would just take absolutely forever. So what you want to do is kind of go back and forth. Like I looked and I saw that I needed to add a little bit more orange in certain spots. I'm going to go in and add a little bit more red in certain spots, but no matter what the video shows, I'm always going left to right, back and forth, even towards the edges where you're tempted to maybe do up and down. Please don't. It'll greatly affect the quality of your work. So those transition areas where the red is going into the orange, those are the toughest, and that's where you're going to do a lot of back and forth, meaning I'm going to grab my orange, then I might switch and grab my red until it looks very smooth and seamless. So at this point, I'm going to start working on the bottom half of the paper. So I'm taking my yellow and I'm just going to put a little yellow. I'm not even bothering to fill it in completely because I want it to be more of like a reflection. Then I'm going to go into my green and really lightly blend it into the little bit of yellow that I put down. I'm focusing more on the edges than the center because I want the center to have quite a bit of yellow so that it looks like the reflection of the sun in it. And once I get roughly a third of the way down the bottom, I'm going to go transition to my blue. So I went really light with the green when I transitioned. I'm going to go really light with the blue on top. And again, that's so that it blends together nicely. Instead of having stripes, you'll have nice, smooth transitions. So as you go towards the bottom of the paper with the blue, you're getting a little bit harder and a little bit harder, but you're still leaving room at the bottom for that purple. Again, I know it looks like I'm going way crazy coloring, but when you speed it up, it doesn't even look like the pencil's moving. Please trust me that I'm going constantly from left to right. So now I'm transitioning into the purple. So again, if you don't want it to look like a stripe, you've eased up on your blue. You go really lightly on the purple, right where they meet, so that it's basically like a thin layer of blue and a thin layer of purple that'll blend together nicely. So I'm starting with the purple on top of a really light blue layer, and you can see how it's not stripy. It's a nice transition. And then as I go towards the bottom of the paper, I'm going to get harder with the pressure until I have like as dark as I can get at the very bottom with the purple. So it came out okay, even with the cheaper Crayola colored pencils. There's only so much you can do with them, but I'm not going to stop. I'm going to go back and forth a few more times after this, especially in those transition areas. So I'm putting more blue on top of the purple. I'm going to put more blue on top of the green. I'm going to put more red on top of the orange, etc. So it's important that you stop, look, and evaluate your artwork. Don't just say, I'm done when you're actually done coloring. See where you can improve it, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So now I'm going to take my black marker or Sharpie and draw a line right underneath where I first drew the yellow so that all the solid yellow's on top of the line. And right above that line, I'm going to add a very, very subtle kind of mountain range, as if it's something really in the distance with a lot of detail. And when I say subtle mountain range, don't do like the dramatic ups and downs like you did like when you were in second grade and the mountain went like up and down, up and down. Keep it really subtle. So that more mimics what nature looks like. And then we're going to color it in. So those of you that know me know I am a huge believer in working from a reference photo whenever possible. So I've Google imaged African sunset silhouette, and the first thing is you'll always see these trees, and I don't recall the name, but they're quite easy to draw. They're very unusual. It's a simple trunk, just like you would see in North America, that's thick at the bottom, thinner at the top, branch out 2 or 3 times. And then the leaves actually look like they grow like horizontally, right? So they're not like the fluffy North American maples or anything. It's almost like I want to say cirrus cloud, is that right? Not the ones that are fluffy, but it's basically like a straight line that it grows in, a horizontal line with a little bit of fluff. So they're quite easy to draw. Now for the elephant, I was feeling frisky, so I'm just going to draw it straight onto the paper, which is not too hard because it's a silhouette, so you don't have to worry about details or it being exactly right. It's very forgiving as a technique to draw a silhouette. But that said, if you are not feeling frisky, you can either pre-draw it on a piece of paper or even print it out if you have access to a printer, and then either cut it out and trace it, coloring it in black when you're done, or doing the rub and transfer, which if you had me or Mr. Cirillo, you're very familiar with. It's where you rub pencil on the back of the drawing and then put the drawing on top and press hard with like a ballpoint pen to transfer the graphite from the pencil. If you're not sure what that means, email Mr. Cirillo or myself and we'll explain it a little bit better than that. But again, I was feeling frisky, and it's quite easy when you're doing a silhouette because you don't have to do a lot of detail. So I just drew it straight on. It's very simplified. It's recognizable no matter what, so don't be too hard on yourself. As long as you get 4 legs, that really thin tail, and a trunk of some sort, it's recognizable as an elephant. And so I'm doing a little mama and a little baby elephant, and that's what it looks like. Now you can feel free to stop there, but one thing that'll make it look a little nicer, especially if you're like me and you don't have great quality colored pencils, is taking a little bit of coconut oil or baby oil. Really any kind will work, but I like coconut oil because it's a solid, so it's less likely to spill, because if you know me at all, you know I'm incredibly clumsy. And I'm just taking a Q-tip and rubbing it over. As long as you're doing this and staying away from the Sharpie or marker, because I'm pretty sure it will make that bleed, you'll notice it just makes it look nicer. It makes things blend a lot nicer. So this is an optional step for you. So leaving the bottom not blended just so you guys can kind of see the difference and what it looks like. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this project. It was really fun making it. Feel free to email me. I'm very curious to see how yours came out. Happy Elephant Day, guys.